Precisely, considering one's welfare, one should not envy anyone, for an envious person must always fear harm from his enemies, either in this life or in the next. As your young sister, this poor girl Devaki is like your own daughter and deserves to be affectionately maintained. You are merciful and therefore you should not kill her. Indeed, she deserves your affection. Sukdev Goswami continued, O best of the Kuru dynasty, Kansa was fearlessly cruel and was actually a follower of the Rakshasas. Therefore, he could be neither pacified nor terrified by the good instructions given by Vasudeva. He did not care about the results of sinful activities, either in this life or in the next. When Vasudeva saw that Kansa was determined to kill his sister Devaki, he thought to himself very deeply. Considering the imminent danger of death, he thought of another plan to stop Kansa. As long as he was intelligent and bodily strength, an intelligent person must try to avoid death. This is the duty of every embodied person. But if death cannot be avoided, in spite of one's endeavors, a person facing death commits no offense. Vasudeva considered, by delivering all my sons to Kansa, who is death personified, I shall save the life of Devaki. Perhaps Kansa will die before my sons take birth, or since he is already destined to die at the hands of my son, one of my sons may kill him. For the time being, let me promise to hand over my son so that Kansa will give up this immediate threat. And if in due course of time Kansa dies, I shall have nothing to fear. When a fire, for some unseen reason, leaps over one piece of wood and sets fire to the next, the reason is destiny. Similarly, when a living being accepts one kind of body and leaves aside another, there is no other reason that unseen destiny. After thus considering the matter as far as his knowledge would allow, Vasudeva submitted his proposal to the sinful Kansa with great respect. Vasudeva's mind was full of anxiety because his wife was facing danger. But in order to please the cruel, shameless and sinful Kans, he externally smiled and spoke to him as follows. Vasudeva said, O best of the sober, you have nothing to fear from your sister Devaki because of what you have heard from the unseen woman. The cause of death will be her son. Therefore, I promise that when she gives birth to the sons from whom your fear has arisen, I shall deliver them all into your hands. Sri Sukdev Goswami continued. Kansa agreed to the logical arguments of Vasudeva, and having full faith in Vasudeva's words, he refrained from killing his sister. Vasudeva, being pleased with Kansa, pacified him further and entered his own house. Each year thereafter, in due course of time, Devaki, the mother of God and all the demigods, gave birth to a child. Thus, she bore 8 sons, one after another, and a daughter named Subhadra. Vasudeva was very much disturbed by fear of becoming a liar by breaking his promise. Thus, with great pain, he delivered his first son, named Kirtiman, into the hands of Kansa. What is painful for saintly persons who strictly adhere to the truth, how could there not be independence for pure devotees who know the Supreme Lord as the substance? What deeds are forbidden for persons of the lowest character, and what cannot be given up for the sake of Lord Krishna by those who have fully surrendered at his lotus feet? My dear King Parikshit, when Kansa saw that Vasudeva, being situated in truthfulness, was completely equipoised in giving him the child, he was very happy. Therefore, with a smiley face, he spoke as follows. O Vasudeva, you may take back your child and go home. I have no fear of your first child. It is the 8th child of you, and Devaki I am concerned with because that is the child by whom I am destined to be killed. Vasudeva agreed and took his child back home. But because Kansa had no character and no self-control, Vasudeva knew that he could not rely on Kansa's word. The inhabitants of Vrindavan, headed by Nanda Maharaj and including his associate cowherd men and their wives, were none but denizens of the heavenly planet. O Maharaj Parikshit, best of the descendants of Bharat, and so too were the descendants of the Vrishni dynasty headed by Vasudeva and Devaki, the other women of the dynasty of Yadu, the friends, relatives, and well-wishers of both Nanda Maharaj and Vasudeva, and even those who externally appeared to be followers of Kansa were all demigods. Once, the great saint Narada approached Kansa and informed him of how the demonic person who were a great burden on the earth were going to be killed. Thus Kansa was placed into great fear and doubt. After purport, yes. It has already been discussed that Mother Earth implored Lord Brahma to give her relief from the distress created by the burdensome demons, and that Lord Brahma informed her that Lord Krishna himself was going to appear. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 4.8, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha duskritam dharma sansthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Whenever there is a burden created by the demons and whenever the innocent devotees are distressed by demonic rulers, the Lord appears in due course of time to kill the demons with the assistance of his real representatives, who are technically called demigods. In the Upanishads, it is stated that the demigods are different parts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As it is the duty of the parts of the body to serve the whole, it is the duty of Krishna's devotees to serve Krishna as he wants. Krishna's business is to kill the demons, and therefore this should be a devotee's business also, because the people of Kali Yuga are fallen. However, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, out of kindness for them, did not bring any weapon to kill them. Rather, by spreading Krishna consciousness, love of Krishna, he wanted to kill their nefarious demonic activity. This is the purpose of the Krishna consciousness movement. Unless the demonic activities on the surface of the world are diminished or vanquished, no one can be happy. The program for the conditioned soul is fully described in Bhagavad Gita, and one simply has to follow these instructions to become happy. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has therefore prescribed Harer Nam, Harer Nameva Kevalam, Kalau Nasteva, Nasteva Gatir Anyatha. Late.
Next verse.
After the departure of the great saint Narada, Kansa thought that all the members of the Yadu dynasty were demigods, and that any of the children born from the womb of Devaki might be Vishnu. Fearing his death, Kansa arrested Vasudeva and Devaki and chained them with iron shackles. Suspecting each of the children to be Vishnu, Kansa killed them one after another because of the prophecy that Vishnu would kill him. Kings, greedy for sense gratification on this earth, almost always kill their enemies indiscriminately. To satisfy their own whims, they may kill anyone, even their mothers, fathers, brothers, or friends. In his previous birth, Kansa had been a great demon named Kalnemi and been killed by Vishnu. Upon learning this information from Narad, Kansa became envious of everyone connected with the Yadu dynasty. Kansa, the most powerful son of Ugrasen, even imprisoned his own father, the king of the Yadu, Bhoj, and Andhak dynasties, and personally ruled the estates known as Sursena. In his previous birth, Kans had been a great demon named Kalnemi and been killed by Vishnu. Upon learning this information from Narad, Kans became envious of everyone connected with the Yadu dynasty. Kansa, the most powerful son of Ugrasen, even imprisoned his own father, the king of the Yadu, Bhoj and Andhak dynasties, and personally ruled the estates known as Sursena. Chapter 2, Prayers by the Demigods for Lord Krishna in the womb.
Last 2-3 slokas again. Last 3 slokas. So read the last 3 slokas. Yeah, you can read 67 number. Start with 67. 67. Yes, Maharaj. Yes, Maharaj. Read.
Matram Pretram Translation. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Translation, text 67. Kings, greedy for sense gratification on this earth, almost always kill their enemies indiscriminately. To satisfy their own whims, they may kill anyone, even their mothers, fathers, brothers, or friends. Purport also. Purport. We have seen in the history of India that Aurangzeb killed his brother and nephews and imprisoned his father to fulfill political ambitions. There have been many similar instances, and Kansa was the same type of king. Kansa did not hesitate to kill his nephews and imprison his sister and his father. For demons to do such things is not astonishing. Nonetheless, although Kansa was a demon, he was aware that Lord Vishnu cannot be killed, and thus he attained salvation. Even partial understanding of the activities of Lord Vishnu makes one eligible for salvation. Kansa knew a little about Krishna, that he could not be killed, and therefore he attained salvation, although he thought of Vishnu, Krishna as an enemy. What then is to be said of one who knows Krishna perfectly from the descriptions of Shastras like Bhagavad Gita? It is therefore the duty of everyone to read Bhagavad Gita and understand Krishna perfectly. This will make one's life successful. Text 68 translation. In his previous birth, Kans had been a great demon named Kalnemi and been killed by Vishnu. Upon learning this information from Narada, Kansa became envious of everyone connected with the Yadu dynasty. Purport. Persons who are demons, enemies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, are called Asuras. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, the Asuras, because of their enmity towards Supreme Personality of Godhead, take birth after birth in Asur families and therefore glide down to the darkest hellish region. Text 69. Translation. Kansa, the most powerful son of Ugrasen, even imprisoned his own father, the king of the Yadu, Bhoj and Andhak dynasties, and personally ruled the estates known as Sursena. Purport. The estate known as Mathura was also included within the estates known as Sursena. That's in Guru Maharaj, this chapter.
Next, Maharaj. Next chapter. Yes, it's time.
Chapter 2, Prayers by the Demigods for Lord Krishna in the womb. Sukdev Goswami said, under the protection of Magadhraj, Jarasan, the powerful Kansa, began persecuting the kings of the Yadu dynasty. In this, he had the cooperation of demons like Pralamba, Baka, Chanur, Trinavar, Aghasur, Musti, Arista, Dviv, Putna, Kesi, Dhenuka, Banasur, Narkasur, and many other demonic kings on the surface of the earth. Persecuted by the demonic kings, the Yadavas left their own kingdom and entered
कुछ कहना चाहते हैं महाराज कुछ आप कुछ कहना चाहते हैं?
महाराज जी मुझे भी पता चला कल रात को कि अमित शाह जी आ हाँ हाँ तो बताना चाहिए।
अभी तो सुबह हुआ है प्रभु जी, अभी सुबह हुआ है महाराज, लेट आए थे तो अभी बताते।
नहीं रात को मुझे पता चला वीडियो लेकिन उनको कैसे बिल्डअप करें सब डिसाइड करना पड़ेगा ना महाराज जी। तो हमको पता ही नहीं और सब लोग पूछ रहे हैं उनको क्योंकि मुझे तो कल रात पता चल गया लेकिन कम्युनिकेशन को तो बताना चाहिए ना महाराज जी। आपको पता है अमित शाह जी को पहले के सामने आपको बताना तुम्हारा मुझे नहीं बताया।
प्रभु जी देखिए, जब वो आए थे ना मंडप को, हम लोगों को भी नहीं बताए थे। जब महाराज आ गए थे
हमको पता चल
तो
गया
मुझे आज सुबह बताया, महाराज को भी बताया।
ये भाई नहीं बताएंगे
ये बात में क्या मैं बोलेंगे
Persecuted by the demonic kings, the Yadavas left their own kingdom and entered various.
मैं जानता हूँ पंकज को मैं जानता नहीं हूँ
पंकज ने
उतना झूठा आदमी है क्या उसकी शादी जितना हम यही बहुत सारे हमसे से पूछ लिए ये मोड़ पर मना किया था क्यों किसी लोग को नहीं लगाए दिक्कत। अब हम जैसा हमको मना कर दिया अब पीछे चला दिया यही रोहित से ऐसा किया था कि नड्डा साहब की इज्जत नहीं लाना है तो उधर चला दिया। एक गलत बात है महाराज, बहुत गलत बात। हम कहते हैं पैंतीस सिस्टर
पूजा के बाद आपको बुलाते हैं, महाराज जी पूजा कर रहे हैं।
Persecuted by the demonic kings, the Yadavas left their own kingdom and entered various others like those of the Kurus, Panchals, Kekkais, Salvas, Vidarbha, Nisad, Vidhe and Kosal. Some of their relatives, however, began to follow Kansa's principles and act in his service. After Kansa, the son of Ugrasen, killed the 6 sons of Devaki, a plenary portion of Krishna entered her womb as her 7th child, arousing her pleasure and her lamentation. That plenary portion is celebrated by great sages as Ananta, who belongs to Krishna's second quadruple expanse.
Once again,
Some of their relatives, however, begin to follow Kansa's principles and act in his service. After Kansa, the son of Ugrasen, killed the 6 sons of Devaki, a plenary portion of Krishna, entered her womb as her 7th child, arousing her pleasure and her lamentation. That plenary portion is celebrated by great sages as Ananta, who belongs to Krishna's second quadruple expansion. To protect the Yadus, his personal devotees, from Kansa attacks, the personality of Godhead, Vishwatma, the supreme soul of everyone, ordered Yogamaya as follows. The Lord ordered Yogamaya, O my potency, who are worshipable for the entire world and whose nature is to bestow good fortune upon all living entities, go to Brazil, where there live many cowherd men and their wives. In that very beautiful land, where many cows reside, Rohini, the wife of Vasudeva, is living at the home of Nanda Maharaj. Other wives of Vasudeva are also living there incognito because of fear of Kansa. Please go there. Within the womb of Devaki is my partial plenary expansion known as Sankarshan or says, without difficulty, transfer him into the womb of Rohini. O all auspicious Yogmaya, I shall then appear with my full 6 opulences as the son of Devaki, and you will appear as the daughter of Mother Yashoda, the queen of Maharaj Nanda. By sacrifices of animals, ordinary human beings will worship you gorgeously with various paraphernalia because you are supreme in fulfilling the material desires of everyone. Lord Krishna blessed Maya Devi by saying, in different places on the surface of the earth, people will give you different names such as Durga, Bhadrakali, Vijaya, Vaishnavi, Kumuda, Chandika, Krishna, Madhavi, Kanyaka, Maya, Narayani, Ishani, Sarda and Ambika. The son of Rohini will also be celebrated as Sankarshan because of being sent from the womb of Devaki to the womb of Rohini. He will be called Rama because of his ability to please all the inhabitants of Gokul, and he will be known as Balbhadra because of his extensive physical strength. Thus, instructed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead Yogmaya, immediately agreed with the Vedic mantra Om. She confirmed that she would do what he asked. Thus, having accepted the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, she circumambulated him and started for the place on the earth known as Nanda Gokul. There she did everything just as she had been told. When the child of Devaki was attracted and transferred into the womb of Rohini by Yogmaya, Devaki seemed to have a miscarriage. Thus, all the inhabitants of palace loudly lamented, alas, Devaki has lost her child. Thus, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the super soul of all living entities and who vanquishes all the fear of his devotees, entered the mind of Vasudeva in full opulence. While carrying the form of Supreme Personality of Godhead within the core of his heart, Vasudeva bore the Lord's transcendently illuminating effulgence, and thus he became as bright as the sun. He was therefore very difficult to see or approach through sensory perception. Indeed, he was unapproachable and unperceivable even for such formidable men as Kansa, and not only for Kansa but for all living entities. Thereafter, accompanied by plenary expansions, the fully opulent Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is all auspicious for the entire universe, was transferred from the mind of Vasudeva to the mind of Devaki. Devaki, having thus been initiated by the Vasudeva, became beautiful by carrying Lord Krishna, the original consciousness for everyone, the cause of all causes, within the core of heart, just as the east becomes beautiful by carrying the rising moon. Devaki then kept within herself the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all the causes, the foundation of the entire cosmos, but because she was under arrest in the house of Kansa, she was like the flames of a fire covered by the walls of a fort, or like a person who has knowledge but cannot distribute it to the world for the benefit of human society. Because the Supreme Personality of Godhead was within her womb, Devaki
Next.
Kansa thought, what is my duty now? The Supreme Lord, who knows his purpose, Paritranaya sadhunam vinasaya cha duskritam, will not give up his prowess. Devaki is a woman, she is my sister, and moreover, she is now pregnant. If I kill her, my reputation, opulence, and duration of life will certainly be vanquished. A person who is very cruel is regarded as dead when even while living. For while he is living or after his death, everyone condemns him, and after the death of a person in the bodily concept of life, he is undoubtedly transferred to the hell known as Andhatma. Sukdev Goswami said, deliberating in this way, Kansa, although determined to continue in enmity toward the Supreme Personality of Godhead, refrained from the vicious killing of his sister. He decided to wait until the Lord was born and then do what was needed. While sitting on his throne or in his sitting room, while laying on his bed, or indeed while situated anywhere, and while eating, sleeping, or walking, Kansa saw only his enemy, the Supreme Lord Rishikesh. In other words, by thinking of his all-pervading enemy, Kansa became unfavorably Krishna conscious. Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, accompanied by great sages like Narada, Deval, and Vyas, and by other demigods like Indra, Chandra, and Varun, invisibly approached the room of Devaki, where they all joined in offering their respect, obeisances, and prayers to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who can bestow blessings upon everyone. The demigods prayed, O Lord, you never deviate from your vow, which is always perfect, because whatever you decide is perfectly correct and cannot be stopped by anyone. Being present in the three phases of cosmic manifestation, creation, maintenance, and annihilation, you are the supreme truth. Indeed, unless one is completely truthful, one cannot achieve your favor, which therefore cannot be achieved by hypocrites. You are the active principle, the real truth in all the ingredients of creation, and therefore you are known as Antaryami, the inner force. You are equal to everyone, and your instructions apply for everyone, for all time. You are the beginning of all truth. Therefore, offering our obeisances, we surrender unto you. Kindly give us protection. The body, the total body, and the individual body are the same composition, may figuratively be called the original tree. From this tree, which fully depends on the ground of material nature, come two kinds of fruit, the enjoyment of happiness and the suffering of distress. The cause of the tree, forming its three roots, is association with the three modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance. The fruits of bodily happiness have four tastes: religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation, which are experienced through five senses for acquiring knowledge in the midst of six circumstances: lamentation, illusion, the efficient cause of this material world manifested with its many varieties as the original tree is you. O Lord, you are also the maintainer of this material world, and after annihilation, you are the one in whom everything is conserved. Those who are covered by your external energy cannot see you behind this manifestation, but theirs is not the vision of learned devotees. O Lord, you are always in full knowledge, and to bring all good fortune to all living entities, you appear in different incarnations, all of them transcendental to the material creations. When you appear in these incarnations, you are pleasing to the pious and religious devotees, but for non-devotees, you are the annihilator. O lotus-eyed Lord, by concentrating one's meditation on your lotus feet, which are the reservoir of all the existence, and by accepting those lotus feet as the boat by which to cross the ocean of nations, one follows in the footsteps of Mahajans, great saints, sages, and devotees. By this simple process, one can cross the oceans of nations as easily as one steps over the hoof print of a calf. O Lord, who resemble the shining sun, you are always ready to fulfill the desire of your devotee, and therefore you are known as a desire tree, Vancha Kalpataru. When acharyas completely take shelter under your lotus feet in order to cross the fierce ocean of nations, they leave behind on the earth the method by which they cross, and because you are very merciful to your other devotees, you accept this method to help them. Someone may say that aside from devotees who always seek shelter at the Lord's lotus feet, there are those who are not devotees but who have accepted different process for attaining salvation, what happens to them in answer to this?
Next verse.
O Madhava, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord of the Goddess of Fortune, if devotees completely in love with you sometimes fall from the path of devotion, they do not fall like non-devotees. For you still protect them, thus they fearlessly traverse the heads of their opponents and continue to progress in devotional service. O Lord, during the time of maintenance, you manifest several incarnations, all with transcendental bodies, beyond the material modes of nature. When you appear in this way, you bestow all good fortune upon the living entities by teaching them to perform Vedic activities such as ritualistic ceremonies, mystic yoga, austerities, penances, and ultimately samadhi, ecstatic absorption in thoughts of you. Thus, you are worshipped by the Vedic principles. O Lord, cause of all causes, if your transcendental body were not beyond the modes of material nature, one could not understand the difference between matter and transcendence. Only by your presence can one understand the transcendental nature of your Lordship. Who are the controller of material nature? Your transcendental nature is very difficult to understand unless one is influenced by the presence of your transcendental form. O Lord, your transcendental name and form are not ascertained by those who merely speculate on the path of imagination. Your name, form, and attributes can be ascertained only through devotional services. Even while engaged in various activities, devotees whose minds are completely absorbed at your lotus feet and who constantly hear, chant, contemplate, and cause others to remember your transcendental names and forms are always on the transcendental platform, and thus they can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. O Lord, we are fortunate because the heavy burden of the demons upon this earth is immediately removed by your appearance. Indeed, we are certainly fortunate, for we shall be able to see upon this earth and in the heavenly planets the marks of lotus, conch shell, club, and disc that adorn your lotus feet. O Supreme Lord, you are not an ordinary living entity appearing in this material world as a result of fruitive activities. Therefore, your appearance or birth in this world has no other cause than your pleasure potency. Similarly, the living entities who are part of you have no cause for miseries like birth, death, and old age, except when these living entities are conducted by your external energies. O Supreme O Mother of Devaki, by your good fortune and ours, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself, with all His plenary portions, such as Baldev, is now within your womb. Therefore, you need not fear Kansa, who has decided to be killed by the Lord. Your eternal soul, son Krishna, will be the protector of the entire Yadu dynasty. After thus offering prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, that transcends all the demigods with Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva before them, return to their homes in the heavenly planet. Thus in the Bhaktivedanta Purushottama. This chapter has completed. Next chapter.
It's a birth of Lord Krishna Janmashtami. What do you believe?
Chapter 3, Birth of Lord Krishna. Therefore, at the auspicious time for the appearance of the Lord, the entire universe was surcharged with all the qualities of goodness, beauty, and peace. The constellation Rohini appeared, as did stars like Ashwini. The sun, the moon, and other stars and planets were very peaceful. All directions appeared extremely pleasing, and the beautiful stars twinkled in the cloudless sky. Decorated with towns, villages, mines, and pasturing grounds, the earth seemed all auspicious. The rivers flowed with clear water, and the lakes and vast reservoirs, full of lilies and lotuses, were extraordinarily beautiful. In the trees and green plants, full of flowers and leaves, pleasing to the eyes, birds like cuckoos and swarms of bees began chanting with sweet voices for the sake of the demigods. A pure breeze began to blow pleasing the sense of touch and bearing the aroma of flowers. And when the Brahmanas
अच्छा सिंगर
Brahmanas engaging in ritualistic ceremonies ignited their fires. According to the Vedic principles, the fires burned steadily, undisturbed by the breeze. Thus, when the birthless Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was about to appear, the saints and Brahmins, who had always been disturbed by demons like Kansa and his men, felt peace within the core of their hearts, and kettle drums simultaneously vibrated from the upper planetary systems. The Kinnars and Gandharvas began to sing auspicious songs. The Siddha and Charanas offered auspicious prayers, and the Vidyadhars, along with the Apsaras, began to dance in jubilations. The demigods and great saintly persons showered flowers in joyous mood, and clouds gathered in the sky and very mildly thundered, making sounds like those of the ocean's waves. Then the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, who is situated in the core of everyone's heart, appeared from the heart of Devaki in the dense darkness of night, like the full moon rising on the eastern horizon, because Devaki was the same category as Sri Krishna. Vasudev then saw the newborn child, who had very wonderful lotus-like eyes, and who bore in his 4 hands the 4 weapons, Sankha, Chakra, Gada and Padma. On his chest was the mark of Srivastra, and on his neck the brilliant Kaustubh gem, dressed in yellow, his body blackish like a dense cloud, his scattered hair fully grown, and his helmet and earrings sparkling uncommonly with the valuable gem Vaidurya. The child, decorated with a brilliant belt, armlets, bangles, and other ornaments, appeared very wonderful. When Vasudev saw his when Vasudev saw his extraordinary son, his eyes were struck with wonder. In transcendental jubilation, he mentally collected 10,000 cows and distributed them among the Brahmins as a transcendental festivals. O Maharaj Parikshit, descendant of King Bharat, Vasudev could understand that this child was the Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayana. Having concluded this without a doubt, he became fearless, bowing down with folded hand and concentrating his attention. He began to offer prayers to the child, who illuminated his birthplace by his natural influence. Vasudev said, "My Lord, you are the Supreme Person, beyond material existence, and you are the Super Soul. Your form can be perceived by transcendental knowledge, by which you can be understood as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now I understand your position perfectly. My Lord, you are the same person who in the beginning created this material world by his personal external energy. After the creation of this world of 3 gunas, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, you appear to have entered it, although in fact you have not. The Mahat Tattva, the total material energy, is undivided, but because of their material modes of nature, it appears to separate into earth, water, fire, air and ether. Because of the living entity, Jiva Bhut, these separated energies combine to make the cosmic manifestation visible. But in fact, before the creation of the cosmos, the total energy is already present. Therefore, total material energy never actually enters the creation. Similarly, although you are perceived by our senses, because of your presence, you cannot be perceived by the senses nor experienced by the mind or words. Avan mansa gochara. With our senses, we can perceive some things, but not everything. For example, we can use our eyes to see, but not to taste. Consequently, you are beyond perceptions by the senses. Although in touch with the modes of material nature, you are unaffected by them. You are the prime factor in everything, the all-pervading, undivided super soul. For you, therefore, there is no external or internal. You never entered the womb of Devaki. Rather, you existed there already. One who considered his visible body, which is product of the three modes of nature, to be independent of the soul is unaware of the basis of existence, and therefore he is a rascal. Those who are learned have rejected this conclusion because one can understand through full discussion that with no basis in soul, the visible body and senses would be insubstantial, nonetheless. Although his conclusion has been rejected, a foolish person considers it a reality. O my Lord, learned Vedic scholars conclude that the creation, maintenance and annihilation of the entire cosmic manifestations are performed by you, who are free from endeavor, unaffected by the modes of material nature, and changeless in your spiritual situations. There are no contradictions in you, who are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Par Brahman, because the three modes of material nature, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, are under your control. Everything takes place automatically. My Lord, your form is transcendental to the three material modes, yet for the maintenance of the three worlds, you assume the white collar of Vishnu in goodness. For creation, which is surrounded by the quality of passion, you appear reddish, and at the end, when there is need for annihilation, which is surrounded by ignorance, you appear blackish. O my Lord, proprietor of all creation, you have now appeared in my house, desiring to protect this world. I am sure that you will kill all the armies that are moving all over the world under the leadership of politicians who are dressed as Kshatriya rulers, but who are factually demons. They must be killed by you for the protection of the innocent public. O my Lord, Lord of the demigods, after hearing the prophecy that you would take birth in our home and kill him, this uncivilized Kansa killed so many of your elder brothers. As soon as he hears from his lieutenant that you have appeared, he will immediately come with weapons to kill you. Sukdev Goswami continued. Thereafter, having seen that her child had all the symptoms of Supreme Personality of Godhead, Devaki, who was very much afraid of Kansa and unusually astonished, began to offer prayers to the Lord. Sri Devaki said, My dear Lord, there are different Vedas, some of which describe you as unperceivable through words and the mind, yet you are the origin of the entire cosmic manifestation. You are Brahman, the greatest of everything, full of effulgence like the sun. You have no material cause, you are free from change and deviation, and you have no material desires. Thus, the Vedas say that you are the substance. Therefore, my Lord, you are directly the origin of all Vedic statements, and by understanding you, one gradually understands everything. You are different from the light of Brahman and Paramatma, yet you are not different from them. Everything emanates from you. Indeed, you are the cause of all causes, Lord Vishnu, the light of all transcendental knowledges. After millions of years, at the time of cosmic annihilation, when everything manifested and unmanifested is annihilated by the force of time, the five gross elements enter into the subtle conceptions, and the manifested categories enter into the unmanifested substance. At that time, O inaugurator of the material energy, this wonderful creation was. No one in this material world has become free from the four principles: birth, death, old age, and disease, even by fleeing to various planets. But now that you have appeared, my Lord, death is fleeing in fear of you, and the living entities, having obtained shelter at your lotus feet by your mercy, are sleeping in full mental peace. My Lord, because you dispel all the fear of your devotees, I request you to save her and give us protection from the terrible fear of Kansa. Your form as Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is appreciated by yogis in meditation. Please make this form invisible to those who see with material eyes. O Madhusudhan, because of your appearance, I am becoming more and more anxious in fear of cancer. Therefore, please arrange for that sinful cancer to be unable to understand that you have taken birth from my womb. O my Lord, you are the all-pervading Supreme Personality of Godhead, and your transcendental four-armed form, holding conch shell, disc, club, and lotus, is unnatural for this world. Please withdraw this form and become just like a natural human child, so that I may try to hide you somewhere. At the time of devastation, the entire cosmos, containing all created moving and non-moving entities, enters your transcendental body and is held there without difficulty. But now this transcendental form has taken birth from my womb. People will not be able to believe this, and I shall become an object of ridicule. The Supreme Personality of Godhead replied, My dear mother, best of the chaste, in your previous work, in the Swambhu millennium, you were known as Prishni, and Vasudev, who was the most pious Prajapati, was named Sutap. When both of you were ordered by Lord Brahma to create progeny, you first underwent severe austerities by controlling your senses. My dear father and mother, you endured rain, wind, a strong sun, a scorching heat, and severe cold, suffering all sorts of inconvenience according to different seasons by practicing pranayam to control the air within the body through yoga, and by eating only air and dry leaves fallen from the trees. You cleansed from your minds all dirty things. In this way, desiring a benediction from me, you worshipped me with peaceful minds. Thus, you spent 12,000 celestial years performing difficult activities of tapasya in consciousness of me, Krishna consciousness. O sinless Mother Devaki, after the expiry of 12,000 celestial years in which you constantly contemplated me within the core of your heart, and great faith, devotion, and austerity, I was very much satisfied with you. Since I am the best of all the bestowers of benediction, I appeared in this same form as Krishna to ask you to take from me the benediction you desired. You then expressed your desire to have a son exactly like me. Being husband and wife, but always sonless, you were attracted by sexual desires, for by the influence of Deva Maya, transcendental love, you wanted to have me as your son. Therefore, you never desired to be liberated from this material world. After you received that benediction and I disappeared, you engaged yourselves in sex to have a son like me, and I fulfilled your desire. Since I found no one else as highly elevated as you in simplicity and other qualities of good character, I appeared in this world as Prisnigar, or one who is celebrated as having taken birth from Prisni. In the next millennium, I again appeared from the two of you, who appeared as my mother Aditi and my father Kasyap. I was known as Upendra, and because of being dwarf, I was also known as Vamana. O supremely chaste mother, I, the same personality, have now appeared of you, both as your son for the third time. Take my words as the truth. I have shown you this form of Vishnu just to remind you of my previous births. Otherwise, if I appeared like an ordinary human child, you would not believe that the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu has indeed appeared. Both of you, husband and wife, constantly think of me as your son, but always know that I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By thus thinking of me constantly with love and affection, you will achieve the highest perfection, returning home back to Godhead. Sukdev Goswami said, after thus instructing his father and mother, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna remained silent. In their presence, by his internal energy, he then transformed himself into a small human child. In other words, he transformed himself into his original form, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Therefore, exactly when Vasudeva, being inspired by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was about to take the newborn child from the delivery room, Yogamaya, the Lord's natural spiritual energy, took birth as the daughter of the wife of Maharaj Nanda. By the influence of Yogamaya, all the doorkeepers fell fast asleep, their senses unable to work, and the other inhabitants of the house also fell deeply asleep. When the sun rises, the darkness automatically disappears. Similarly, when the Vasudev appeared, the closed doors, which were strongly pinned with iron and locked with iron chains, opened automatically. Since the clouds in the sky were mildly thundering and showering, Anantanag, an extension of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, followed Vasudeva, beginning from the door with hoods expanded to protect Vasudev and the transcendental child. Because of constant rain sent by the demigod Indra, the river Yamuna was filled with deep water, foaming about with fiercely whirling waves. But as the great Indian Ocean had formerly given way to Lord Ramchandra by allowing him to construct a bridge, the river Yamuna gave way to Vasudev and allowed him to cross. When Vasudev reached the house of Nand Maharaj, he saw that all the cowherd men were fast asleep. Thus he placed his own son on the bed of Yashoda, picked up her daughter and expansion of Yogmaya, and then returned to his residence, the prison house of Kansa. Vasudev placed the female child on the bed of Devi, bound his legs with the iron shackles, and thus remained there as before. Exhausted by the labor of childbirth, Yashoda was overwhelmed with sleep and unable to understand what kind of child had been born to her. Just came the purpose of 10th canto, 3rd chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Birth of Lord Krishna. Chapter 4. Could I read this chapter, Guru Maharaj? Chapter 4. The atrocities of King Kansa. Sukadeva Goswami continued. My dear King Parikshit, the doors inside and outside the house closed as before, and therefore the inhabitants of the house, especially the watchmen, heard the crying of the newborn child and thus awakened from their beds. Thereafter, all the watchmen very quickly approached King Kansa, the ruler of the Bhoj dynasty, and submitted the news of the birth of Devaki's child. Kansa, who had awaited this news very anxiously, immediately took action. Kansa immediately got up from bed, thinking, here is Kal, the supreme time factor, which has taken birth to kill me. Thus overwhelmed, Kansa, his hair scattered on his head, at once approached the place where the child had been born. Devaki helplessly, piteously appealed to Kansa, my dear brother, on
ठीक है हाँ सही है अगला मैं लाइट पंखा दोनों बंद कर दीजिएगा
डस्टबिन में तो ना
मेरे कोई ऑप्शन भी नहीं है कहीं रखने का ये जो करो क्या करें उधर ही रख दीजिए
day. And it is the duty of the parts of the body to serve the whole. It is the duty of Krishna's devotees to serve Krishna as he wants. Krishna's business is to kill the demons, and therefore this should be a devotee's business also, because the people of Kali Yuga are fallen. However, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, out of kindness for them, did not bring any weapon to kill them. Rather, by spreading Krishna consciousness, love of Krishna, he wanted to keep their nefarious demonic activity. This is the purpose of the Krishna consciousness movement. Unless the demonic activities on the surface of the world are diminished or vanquished, no one can be happy. The program for the conditioned soul is fully described in Bhagavad Gita, and one simply has to follow these instructions to become happy. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has therefore prescribed Hari Nam, Hari Nam, Hari Nameva Kevalam, Galo Nasteva, Nasteva, Nasteva Gatir Anyata. Next. After the departure of the great saint Narada, Kansa thought that all the members of the Yadu dynasty were demigods, and that any of the children born from the womb of Devki might be Vishnu. Fearing his death, Kansa arrested Vasudeva and Devki and chained them with iron shackles. Suspecting each of the children to be Vishnu, Kansa killed them one after another because of the prophecy that Vishnu would kill him. Kings, greedy for sense gratification on this earth, almost always kill their enemies indiscriminately. To satisfy their own whims, they may kill anyone, even their mothers, fathers, brothers, or friends. In his previous birth, Kansa had been a great demon named Kalnemi and been killed by Vishnu. Upon learning this information from Narada, Kansa became envious of everyone connected with the Yadu dynasty. Kansa, the most powerful son of Ugrasen, even imprisoned his own father, the king of the Yadu, owned an unloved dynasty, and personally ruled the estates known as Surasena. In his previous birth, Kans had been a great demon named Kalnemi and been killed by Vishnu. Upon learning this information from Narada, Kans became envious of everyone connected with the Yadu dynasty. Kansa, the most powerful son of Ugrasen, even imprisoned his own father, the king of the Yadu, who was an unknown dynasties, and personally ruled the estates known as Surasena. Chapter 2. Prayers by the demigod for Lord Krishna in the moon.
नीचे गिरा ना यहाँ नीचे रख दिया
Last two pieces because last is
मैं अभी
last is
Matram Petram Translation Text 67. Kings, wishing for sense gratification on this earth, almost always kill their enemies indiscriminately. To satisfy their own whims, they may kill anyone, even their mothers, fathers, brothers, or friends. Purport. We have seen in the history of India that Aurangzeb killed his brother and nephews and imprisoned his father to fulfill political ambitions. There have been many similar instances, and Kansa was the same type of king. Kansa did not hesitate to kill his nephews and imprison his sister and his father. For demons to do such things is not astonishing. Nonetheless, although Kansa was a demon, he was aware that Lord Vishnu salvation. Even partial understanding of the activities of Lord Vishnu makes one eligible for salvation. Kansa knew a little about Krishna that he could not be killed, and therefore he attained salvation, although he thought of
इधर
Vishnu,
तुलसी होगा,
Krishna
तुलसी
as
देना
an
महाप्रभु
enemy. What will this
तुलसी
be
इधर से
said of one who knows Krishna perfectly from the descriptions of Shastras like Bhagavad Gita? It is therefore
सूची
the
प्लांट
duty
ना
of
हाँ
everyone to read Bhagavad Gita and understand Krishna perfectly. This will make one's life successful. Text 16 translation. In his previous birth, Kans had been a great demon named Kaldeni, had been killed by Vishnu. Upon learning this information from Narada, Kansa became envious of everyone connected with the Yadu dynasty. Purport. Persons who are demons, enemies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, are called Asuras. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, the Asuras, because of their inability to hold Supreme Personality of Godhead, take birth after birth in Asur families and therefore glide down to the darkest hellish region. Text 69. Translation. Kansa, the most powerful son of Krishna, even imprisoned his own father, the king of the Yadu, whose had Gandhar dynasties and personally ruled the states known as Sudasena. Purport. The estate known as Mathura was also included within the estates known as Sudasena. That's it. It's just Chapter 2. Prayers by the demigods for Lord Krishna in the home. Deva Goswami said, under the protection of Mother Raj, Jarasandha, the powerful Kansa, began persecuting the kings of the Yadu dynasty. In this, he had the cooperation of demons like Pradamba, Baka, Chanu, Trinavara, Aghasur, Musti, Arista, Dui, Kesi, Dhiruka, Banasur, Sarkasur,
देखो
and
इधर आगे
many
पीछे
other
थोड़ा
demonic
से
beings on the
कहीं खड़ा
surface of
होता
the
है
earth. Persecuted by the demonic beings, the Yadavas left their own kingdom and entered disputed by the demonic beings. The Yadavas left their own kingdom and entered various
बेसिकली 64 दिन रहे तो उज्जैन में, तो फिर वहाँ उन्होंने 64 कलाएं सीखी, 64 कलाओं से फिर उनको फिर 64 गुण प्राप्त हुए, इसलिए हम लोग को 64 माला जप करनी चाहिए। तो ऐसा कोई कनेक्शन नहीं फिलहाल तो, लेकिन हाँ भगवान श्री कृष्ण की 64 क्वालिटीज बताई गई हैं। ओके, जो नारायण और एनी फॉर्म ऑफ नारायण इज देयर और विष्णु इज देयर, उन्होंने 60 क्वालिटीज, दैट मींस 93% विष्णु और नारायण दे आर गॉड। Lord Shiva has got 55 qualities, so he's 85% God. Brahma ji में 78% qualities, that means 50 qualities out of 64, so he's 73% God. But who is 100% God? Krishna. Of course बाकियों में qualities हैं भी और एक कम परसेंटेज में। ओके, तो पहले 55 qualities जो है हम में कॉमन है, ब्रह्मा जी में कॉमन है, और शिव जी में कॉमन है, नारायण में कॉमन है, कृष्ण में कॉमन है, लेकिन क्वांटिटी वो उनमें ज्यादा है। ठीक है, एज फॉर एग्जांपल फर्स्ट क्वालिटी है ब्यूटीफुल बॉडी फीचर। हमारे ब्यूटीफुल बॉडी फीचर्स है, एक आध कोई बॉडी फीचर अच्छा होगा, बाकी अगर पूरा अगर देखें अगर शीशे में, ये भाई साहब थोड़ा गड़बड़ा के तो अपना राइट, और उस समय के लिए हम बड़े हैंडसम गुड लुकिंग हो, लेकिन जैसे जैसे उम्र बीतेगी तो घुटनों में दर्द शुरू होंगे, दिखाएंगे देखिए ये ना चेयर लगा दीजिए, ऐसे बैठा नहीं जाएगा, राइट, सीधे नहीं होंगे, कमर झुकेगी, तो इसलिए बॉडी फीचर्स उस समय के लिए होते नहीं कि उसके बाद फिर वो जाने में शुरू हो जाता है। तो दैट इज 64 क्वालिटीज जिस तरह से भगवान में है, तो किसी ने भगवान चलाते हुए कहा कि हैज गॉट ऑल द क्वालिटीज टू द फुलनेस एंड दैट टू ऑलवेज। He has some of the qualities, that too for some time, and that too in limited quantity. So Krishna has got infinite qualities in infinite quantity till infinity. बस हमें ज़्यादा कोई फर्क नहीं भगवान के अंदर। Not much difference, right? So because we are coming from God, so that's how हमें भी वो qualities होती हैं, but in a minuscule form. लेकिन जो निराकारवादी होते हैं, those who are impersonalists, जो कि भगवान को निराकार मानते हैं, वो कहते हैं वो तो निर्गुण है। अच्छा वो निर्गुण तो गुण का है, कहते मेरे अच्छा सारे गुण आपने समाया है, पर लेकिन शास्त्रों में एक्चुअली ये शब्द आता है निर्गुण फॉर द लॉर्ड। इसका मतलब क्या है? इसका मतलब है भगवान के अंदर सत्वगुण, रजोगुण, तमोगुण नहीं है।
पंखा बंद करो ये वाला दूसरा वही था वो नहीं बंद करो हाँ बस नवीन विरद रूप मनोहर मोहन बंसी बिहारी यशोदानंदना कंस निषूदना मुकुंदरास विलासी यशोदानंदना कंस निषूदना मुकुंदरास विलासी कदम्बकानन रासपरायण वृंदावितेन निवासी कदम्बकानन रासपरायण वृंदावितेन निवासी आनंदवर्धना प्रेमनिकेतना फूलसरजोदकामा आनंदवर्धना प्रेमनिकेतना फूलसरजोदकामा गोपांगनांदन चित्तविनोदन समस्त गुणगणधाम यमुना जीवन केलिपरायण मनसतंद्र चकोर यमुना जीवन केलिपरायण मनसतंद्र चकोर हरिनाम सुधारस गाओ कृष्ण यश राखो बचन मन मोरा हरिनाम सुधारस गाओ कृष्ण यश राखो बचन मन मोरा हरि राखो बचन मन मोरा जय कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम जय जय राधे श्याम जय कवि कथा जय राधे श्याम जय गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय गौरानिताय जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंह लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंह नमस्ते नरसिंहाय प्रह्लादनाददायिने हिरण्याकाशे पूर्वतः तिलकङ्कानकालाय इतो नरसिंहा परतो नरसिंहा विततो वाहे नरसिंहा जय नरसिंह नरसिंहमदे शरणं प्रपदे अवतर कमलावरे नखां अद्भुतसुन्दरं दलिता हिरण्यकशिपो तन्मृन्दं केशवगीता नरहरिरूप जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय सर्वज्ञ शिवतुल्य भगवान नवो नवरंगे महाविष्णु जलंतं सर्वतोमुखं नरसिंहं विष्णुं वज्रं विष्णुं नमामि विंदाय तुलसीदेवी प्रियाय केशवस्य कृष्ण देवी सतवते नमो नमः विंदाय तुलसीदेवी प्रियाय केशवस्य कृष्ण देवी सतवते नमो नमः विंदाय तुलसीदेवी प्रियाय केशवस्य कृष्ण देवी नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो राधा कृष्ण सेवा सदा रूपराशि तन धरो Krishna Govinda Sadai Nabhasi Tulasi Krishna Priyasi तमाम विष्णु प्रदाय कृष्ण पृष्ठ कथा सुनने को बाद कृष्ण जय श्री प्रपात की जय। भगवान का चरण, कृष्णा का चरण दर्शन कीजिए। स्पेशल बलराम जी का चरण दर्शन, अनंत शीश, उग्र नरसिम्हा जी, गोपाल गोवर्धन, कृष्ण बलराम दोनों भैया। जय गिरिराज महाराज।